Pat Benner and Brian Burgess are excused. Both of them had other commitments they couldn't break. Patty Gabby, another member, is excused because she has elected to resign a couple of months before her term expires. And so roll call done. Everybody but those three. Okay, and a call to order. We're now an official meeting. We needed to approve the last meeting we had. Jennifer was in April because I had to cancel the main meeting. Don, did you have something to add? I think to the agenda about your request of some help from Public Works at the Southgate Pond. I think you said.
Well, I think I'd spoken to Jeff about this before, and that was to have the arborist and evaluate the trees around there to see if he has the same, concern that I do regarding invasive species. The vines climbing up on trees, that sort of thing. Besides that, you probably don't want poison ivy growing on trees. You're finding by fishermen, other users of them.
So was that something you brought up at the last meeting I missed? Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just add it to the minutes before I submit them. Any other updates to the minutes from April? Jennifer obviously wasn't here, so can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
And we're second. Okay. I'm going out of order here. Now I need approval of the agenda for today, the draft agenda. It's pretty light. If anybody has any additions, I didn't receive any other notes about that. Motion to approve. Don's still reading. Robin, wait for it. And anybody else? For a second? You can even approve. I'm reading the new.
Okay.
Can you give me a second?
Yes, I'll give you a second.
All right. Okay, first of all, before we welcome and introduce our new member, most of you maybe have seen a series of emails that Patty Gamby sent upon her resignation. She brought up a lot of issues. I only saw some of them last night, and I do think some of her the things that she mentioned are not totally correct. And so I would like to put off a discussion of all of that, all those emails and stuff until our next meeting, if that's okay with everybody. So,
Or did she have any? I saw two emails. One that where she had a lot of writing, and then a second one where she had a couple of bullet points that she had forgotten. That's all I saw. Is there more?
I guess that was it.
That's all I did.
Okay.
Yeah, but the second one I didn't see until like after 9 o'clock last night. So, and it, I do want to thoroughly go through all those and so we can properly address each point that was made. And then Jeff, did your final email go to everybody too?
Yeah, I copied it.
Okay, that Jeff had an email that answered a couple of the points, which we should probably have a further discussion on.
And I had a clarification.
Yes, I saw yours.
Yes, true also.
So
I didn't see anything. When did you send them?
This is what they do.
I saw John's and then I think you just responded to Patty's latest last night or like late, sometime later this morning.
I didn't see anything.
Oh, no, that was,
John.
was yesterday.
So maybe I can try to consolidate all of her points and Jeff's response and Don's response into one document and send it to everybody.
3 hours ago.
Okay,
This morning.
okay.
How does that work for everybody? Since it's kind of hard to sometimes follow these email strings. I will consolidate, and share.
For some reason, some of those emails are going right to trash. So I couldn't, I haven't identified it as trash.
What email did you use? Is it a AOL? Or?
Jeff's, Patty's, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes-
double check, see if I marked you guys as,
I use-
directly to spam or.
I use Gmail and I think Gmail is very, it's a little bit We decided anything from AOL is spam. People do stuff, AOL accounts.
I see.
Okay, I already mentioned that the meeting is being recorded, and I just wanted to address, I apologize for the kind of late notification canceling the May meeting. I was traveling overseas and I didn't have, I planned on working on the May agenda in the April minutes while I was there, but I didn't have good internet. And then my flight got changed to, and I realized I only have a day when I got back here, so I hope, I hope that was okay with everybody. And now let's welcome our new member, Jennifer Compton. So, Jennifer, do you want to just give us a quick bio?
Okay, grew up in the College Park, Maryland area. Met my husband a few years later and got married, and he was in the service. He had been in the service previously, got out, went back in, and at that point we spent most of our time in Germany. Did live in California, the duty station there. Our last duty station was in Tennessee. And at that point, he was working and I was working. I worked in the medical field as an accountant. And then once we both retired, we decided to move back to Maryland. Would only come to the Eastern Shore. Gave ourselves 2 weeks to find a house. The first week we found a house in Ocean Pines, and we've been here ever since.
Great. What area of the Pines are you?
South.
Okay, I think I'm in the South. Everybody just about, I don't, what's the dividing line? Route 90.
Bridge. But yeah, we live in Sherwood Forest.
I'm on Royal Oaks. What street?
Oh, we're neighbors then.
Okay, great.
I live on Spruce.
Okay, that's, yeah, it's all the three names.
Yeah.
I'm not full time, but you
Yeah.
know, I'm here a lot in the summer. Anyway, well, welcome. And didn't she say on your application that you're a master gardener?
Yes, yes. When I lived in Tennessee, I took the master gardener courses. And then when I moved here, my first year or two, I didn't really want to do any gardening. But my husband talked me into it, so I realized everything was a different system here. So I went back and I met with Jenny Rosencrantz and took the master gardener courses. So I enjoyed it, learned a lot.
I was just at her house last week.
Great.
Yeah, she's a gardener. I love her.
So just, we can all briefly introduce ourselves. And while we're on the committee, my background is not in science, it's in communications, but I've always had a real interest in protecting the environment. And going back to the first Earth Day, when I organized a cleanup at my high school. So that's really why I joined, and just also to preserve the wonderful nature that we have in Ocean Pines. That's, if you read what our mandate is, our main concern is the waterways, supposedly, and the St. Martin's River being primary concern. So that is how I got involved.
My background is in accounting and CPA, and I got my activeness. When I retired, I don't need to do this. However, I ended up, we moved down here, from Baltimore, we moved down here in 2000. I became affiliated with the Worcester County Humane Society because it is a no-kill shelter. They're small and they sometimes struggle. We need all the help they can get. In 2014, I got on the board, became their treasurer, and I am still doing that. But in 2000, and then we lived in Ocean City. We found a lot here in Ocean Pines. In 2003, we bought the lot, built a house. So we've been there ever since. In 2018, the Ocean Pines general manager, and I do believe this committee was somewhat involved in this. There was a significant goose culling that occurred where I've heard estimates anywhere from 300 to 500 geese were killed without any advance notice or knowledge. Or at that point, I resolved to get on this committee. There were two other women who I didn't know who were also upset about the geese. And they, decided to go on the committee, and both of them, have left, one because she's very ill and one because she was at the end of her term. I kind of re-upped for a while, but the initial reason was because of the issues with wildlife. That has obviously expanded to other issues, although when you see that little sign that says, do not, geese crossing, I was involved, he was involved in that. So we,
There's still one.
yeah,
The one at Southgate is amazing. I don't know
yeah.
how often you go down there, but the geese walk across there and there's, must be 50 of them, I
Yeah.
swear. And they go right by the sign.
Yeah, they seem to be able to read.
I know there's 4 signs left around the Southgate Pond.
Yeah.
And at some point they may be removed. They're under the supervision of the Public Works right now. So our work on that is done, and we're just happy to help protect.
I wasn't seeing.
Every once in a while, I gotta pull my car over and fix one of them.
Oh.
Other than that,
But
they're
anyway,
okay.
that was the initial reason I got on the committee, and I decided to stay, even though we got past that issue. Because there's so many other things within our community that, in my mind, involve the natural assets of our.
John?
I'm a chemical engineer. And was working in Princeton, and then the company, a very large, I've worked a couple of them. I worked in research and development, process development, and as time went on, one of the issues always was pollution, whether it was air pollution or water pollution, and I got very involved in that because if we didn't do it, we were really going to have a problem. They'd shut the plant down or something. And that's how I got involved. And I would spend my initial time was determining what the effluents were and how to recover them and keep them in the product. And it was always an interest of mine. And I used to travel all over the United States and the world, looking at the plants and going through process improvement. And I was down in Houston, and then issues happened. And I had to get back up here because this is where my family was, DC, Virginia Beach, and Yardley. And they moved me here because it was in between those places. And I was very happy working, but unfortunately it all disappeared and the family's all gone one way or another. Either they moved or they died. It's just me. I just have to stay busy as I can. I can't stand not being busy. This way.
Yeah, we'll try to keep you busy.
At lunch, I go to the gym and work out just to get the stuff out of here. And that's my 30 minutes. And it really helps me here more than anywhere else. It's amazing that mental chemistry changes like that.
Thanks, John. Don, do you want to say?
Don Mulkey, moved down here like 8 years ago with my wife and I. I retired a year and a half ago from the Boeing Company. My background's in environmental science. I was environmental consulting for over 10 years. In the last 25 years, I retired from the Boeing Company as an environmental health and safety specialist. So I've been on this committee here.
And I know, Don, you participate with a lot of other
Yeah,
organizations.
I also
surveys.
volunteer for OC Beach Heroes. That's every
I do this here.
go pick up trash on the beach or marsh area, streets of Ocean City. Also volunteer with Maryland Coastal Bays and Aspen Coastal Trust.
Busy man. Jeff,
I'm Jeff Ebner. I'm the liaison from the board of directors. Each of us is assigned to committees. I just happen to be assigned this one, which I have a lot of passion for anyway, so kind of works out nice. My background moved to Ocean Pines in 2017, so I'm a relatively newcomer. Been on the board of directors. This is my second year, and it's my my first of 3 years. I had a year before that. It's my first of 3 years. I do a lot of volunteer. I retired about the same time you did, about a year and a half ago or so. I do a lot of volunteer work. I work 2 days a week on a horse rescue. It's a nonprofit taking care of horses, and I do all the maintenance. I walk the parkway every day and pick up trash. You wouldn't believe how many nails and screws I take off the road to prevent, tires from being punctured.
You appreciate that?
Other than that, that's me.
I didn't tell you why.
Oh,
And I should,
Yeah.
I realized I should tell you why I was
Yes.
interested.
Coastal Highway.
The
I
parkway.
joined
Ocean Park.
because
Ocean Park.
there was a lot of talk on the Ocean Pine sites
Oh,
about the leaf issue,
Facebook?
Facebook
Oh,
site,
yes, yes.
about the leaf issue. So I'm the kind of person where I don't just like to hear what people's complaints are. I like to find out the issues from the source. So I watched one of the meetings on the video, and some of the things that I heard kind of disturbed me. So I went to the website and I looked up what the Environmental and Natural Assets Advisory Committee's purposes were, read them thoroughly. And I realized that maybe some of the issues were mostly due to people not being educated correctly on what is good for our environment and ecosystem. So if you know Jenny Rosencrantz, and you know, I'm really big on that. I'm not much on, obviously, I don't vote, so I'm not really, I'm no expert on waterways. That's other people's job, but I do know that whatever happens on our land and the chemicals we use on our lawns and our plants affect our watershed, and that is very disturbing to me.
I wrote an article that
Yeah.
was published about that.
Yeah.
And how that was affecting the canals and how you're trying to get people to,
Not use Roundup.
yes, and explain to them and also tell them that, and then I started getting involved with True Green and people like that. So that they know that if you're on a canal, there's certain things they'll put there and certain things they won't put there. And now the canals, which I live on, Wood Duck One, is clear as a bell.
Good.
Well, hopefully some of the efforts that we've been promoting, including oyster gardening. for
Oh,
people who
yes,
have
I'm
water.
very interested in that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that helps clean the water and, I don't know if you get the quarterly report, the Ocean Pines
Mhm,
report,
yes.
we had a column in that, Green Street, which I think the last one was about, kind of environmentally responsible lawn care and, you know, how you don't need chemical fertilizers, you can use compost, you can, so we try to, that's quarterly, update on, hey, here's something you can do.
That's why I joined it. And I think that people need to be made aware. People that only come in part-time might not think about it. They just want to make sure that their lawn is up to the standard. But the people that live here full-time might have a different view. And I'm full-time, so I do have a different view.
That brings me to, did you have anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Something I forgot to put in old business is that the summer Green Street article was submitted on the deadline. Patty Gamby actually drafted it and I kind of polished it up. And the article is about composting. Now, and then I thought after it was sent in, I was like, is there anything in the declarations of restrictions that say you can't have a compost bin? I didn't see anything, but
I have one.
well, I mean, they have been pretty, the association has been very aggressive in issuing violations lately, which has brought up the leaf discussion. And sometimes when you look at the photos of the lawns or the yards that they're, you've got people with junk all over. But I mean, a compost bin can be kept pretty neat. And I don't know, I don't think I can have one because I don't have enough sun on the property, but I have them at our primary home. So until, you want to promote that, all that stuff that goes to waste could be turned into excellent soil enrichment. So that's what the article's about. I don't know when it'll actually, usually they start releasing the articles on the social media before you get the physical thing in the mail. So and look for that. And again, I guess I will find out if somehow composting is not allowed. And so thank you for reminding me of that. So our next item is, those of us who participated in the season kickoff. This was, held May 17 in the, Veterans Memorial Park. I don't know if you attended it. Anne came by a little bit. Don helped. Jeff was there with his, oyster gardening demonstration. And, Brian Burgess and I and, Brian's wife, we also participated in it.
Held the tent down.
Okay, so I wanted to, before I say anything, I wanted to hear, oh, and also for those of you who weren't there, this is what our handout was that I had made up for that. This is directly from Republic Services.
Picked up one.
We had wanted to do a refrigerator magnet, but I said, well, we didn't get a request in time to get funding from the association. So I actually had these printed up. And I had reached out to Republic Services, which is the contracted trash disposal, waste disposal. And, one of my concerns is that they do take glass now, and that is not said that you can. But I reached out to them and asked if they could update this. I never got a response. But I just figured anybody who came by said, hey, you can, clear glass, especially, you can recycle that. It's not the most desired material.
Well, my only concern with the glass in there, because I take my glass separate and I take it to the dumpster with the waste jar.
Yep.
Because if you throw glass in there, then sometimes it
juice,
breaks,
yep.
and then I'm worried that somebody might get caught, or how are they gonna separate broken glass? That was my only concern.
We, this committee actually did a field trip to the Worcester County Recycling Center last year, and we learned that they don't want glass. But I think Republic Services takes their recycling somewhere in Delaware. So, but anyway, that's just a reminder, put stick on the refrigerator. Maybe next time we can afford magnets. Yeah. So anyway, Anne, you came by briefly. So what were your thoughts on the event and whether it's something we want to continue to participate
Oh,
in?
I definitely think we should continue to participate. I mean, my thoughts were more personal in the sense that it would have been nice to have had a map or something that showed you where different, there were a lot of goods. I have issues with an ankle that make it difficult for me sometimes to walk on grass all over the place. And I went across the bridge after the pool and I found the help desk or whatever, and I asked them where our booth was because I wanted to start there. And they told me where they thought it was, and it was not there. And I ended up wandering all over the place trying to find this booth. And by that time, I was at the point where I wasn't going to do it. It would have just been, I think, better if they had some kind of layout like they do in Ocean City when they have events at wherever they have events at the convention hall, and and they lay out where these things are. But I thought I was glad that the event occurred because I think that all the weather was a little questionable and there was a lot of wind. But I thought it was I thought the participation was great. I don't know really, it didn't look like there were a lot of people there at the time I got there. So I'm not sure how popular it was.
Yeah, I thought I shared your concerns. I thought the grass was a little long too.
Yeah.
Might it could have used a cut before the event, but I don't know who's responsible if that's the Veterans Memorial Committee or yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
Don, John, you were there. You went through. What did you think of the event?
I was just glad it wasn't raining. What can I say? There's just so much you can do and hang in there. And it was, other than that, it was fun. And the more if you do it like that, the next year, maybe you'll be good.
They can tweak this is the first one.
And people talk about it, see the information, get information, and then there's discussions later, and the next year when they have it, they go, oh, let's go, that's how I look at it.
Okay, well, Don, you already mentioned we had to hold the tent, you had to attach your bike to one corner. It was so windy, tents were going over.
It was kind of spread out. It's kind of like when they have the kids stay there with, bounce house and stuff like that. It was more concise, and I'm surprised that we didn't use, I would think that however much we spent on the pavilion, Eric, it would have been the center of things, it was off to the
Oh,
side.
you mean the gazebo?
Yeah, the gazebo, yeah.
Everything was very spread out, so it's a good.
Yeah, and the cool events are like when you go to Berlin, they close the street, but you have tents set on both sides, so you're kind of more concise rather than spread out like that. If we had it down at the, here at the park, it would have probably been more concise and that more homey kind of feel. My thoughts.
Jeff, what are you thinking?
I agree with you. I think if it was more concentrated, participation felt a little sparse because it was so spread out, but I think participation, I haven't got the final results, that was probably about the same, but it felt less because it was so huge. There's a lot of people there, you just didn't bump into them like you would here in Whitehorse. But I agree, we should have probably, we got to learn and adopt, and I think making everything a little bit more, close together, compact, it would be a big help.
And if you have a plan, there must have been a plan to put all these different.
Yeah,
things there. I don't know why you couldn't put that in a.
Well, the co-chairs, I know they worked really hard on putting it all together, and I guess they were trying to separate, people who may have paid to have their booths from those, the advisory committees were offered free space. We just had, and a table, we just had to provide all of our exhibit materials, and one of our committee members loaned us, what they call a canopy marquee, which was a little difficult to put up and down. It was a little rusty, but until it started blowing away, we were okay.
I participated with a different organization. I'm a member of Filters by the Sea. And this is the second year that we've done it. Of Filters by the Sea. And this is the second year that we've done it. The first year was in the park, but then again, the issue of not knowing where your booth was an issue. And we had all our equipment and wagons and walking it around, and nobody could tell us where we were supposed to be. And so we didn't care for that. But one at the Veterans Park, that was better in our opinion, as far as locating where you were supposed to be and getting set up.
Oh, you mean at the Whitehorse Park?
Yeah.
Previous year.
The previous year they did it here.
Yeah, that's,
But-
but you think this year was better?
I liked it better, only because it was easier to bring your items and set up. And when you're carrying up loads of stuff and they're telling you, well, I think it's down, that was our only issue, was not having a layout. They would tell us what number we were supposed to be at the first time in Whitehorse Park, but then you would go down numerically where you think you're supposed to be, and that number's not there, or somebody else was in that space. And then I liked it better this year, as far as finding your location and setting up. It could have been closer together. They could have set them up in rows.
I was disappointed in the traffic that we received at our exhibit. Most people just kind of walked on by, probably because we didn't give out any free candy. Nobody really, these were not a big hit. And I mean, we did have, we put a lot of work into examples of our theme was reduce, reuse, recycle in that order. So, items that you can, instead of, buying disposable Ziploc bags, you can get reusable ones. Using your jars for food storage instead of putting them in recycling bins. I made a hummingbird feeder out of a wine bottle. Just things, all kinds of examples of how you can reuse stuff. And again, we had very few people actually stop by and chat with us. So I was a little disappointed. It's from that point of view, I felt we had better involvement and participation when we were at the White Horse Park the first year. And again, for the reasons Jeff said, it was less spread out. And when you're right next to, somebody else, it seems to be, oh, let's stop at this table. So, one of the other, yeah, Don.
Since, this right here was right adjacent to Bay Day. Did anyone go to Bay Day?
I couldn't because I was traveling. But I don't know. I thought that we had to make a decision because these were back to back on the same weekend. And I couldn't get volunteers to do both days. And the committee took a vote to do the kickoff. And there were reasons, I don't know what all the reasons were for the jumbled scheduling, because I think in 2024, the kickoff was in April. It was earlier. Bay Day's always been in May. But,
It's always gonna be here because they're gonna do water events.
I think the kickoff in 2024 was on this, after this farmer's market. So we already had like a built-in audience that were here from that. I mean, that did probably create problems with people finding parking, but having sort of people say, oh, I think I'll stay for this. I don't know. We'll have, it's too early now. We don't know, for sure if it'll happen again next year, do we, Jeff?
Yeah, we'll form that committee again and we'll take all this information and make that decision.
Okay.
I'm sure.
So we don't really need to talk about a commitment for next year, but, given we all had some concerns about the location, the timing, and making it adjacent to something else we would have liked to be involved in. So, all right. Any further comments on that? Oh, so the oyster gardening project, we have, the committee maintains a, cage raising spat over at the, Swim and Racket Club Park. It is, attached to the gazebo. There's a picnic area gazebo. And we took over a space that had been operated by the Coastal Bays folks. And there had been a sign there for years that said, kind of showed you, it was getting weathered, and it kind of showed you the life cycle of an oyster and how gardening helps the environment. And that just suddenly disappeared. I reached out to Coastal Bays to ask them if they removed it. I never got a response. So I don't know if that's something that maybe Public Works removed for whatever reason. But we would like to, since if we're going to maintain the cage, we'd like to get another sign. We'd have to have it manufactured. I think Sun Signs creates a lot of the signs for Ocean Pines, like the wood signs for our sections. They do beautiful work. I don't know if they also do artwork, but we would have to come up with what we want on it. Do you have any ideas?
I take the one over to Yacht Club right now, because there's another cage over at the Yacht Club.
Oh, is there?
Maintained by the Marine Advisories Committee. It looks perfect. All you gotta do is put environmental natural assets committee at the bottom of it, or just be that blank. So it's already there, just gotta print another copy.
That's at the Yacht Club.
Is that the Yacht Club? When you come walking on down the steps to the boardwalk, where
Okay, where
Marina
the
Club is pretty much right
the
there.
slips are.
If you see bar, if you sit at the tiki bar, you can see.
Yeah, I had not seen that. So maybe they would, be able to just provide us with the artwork, and then we would only have to pay for the creation of the sign. I think it always helps when we submit requests to the board of directors or the association. We use a form called a charging document. And I think if you can give them an estimate of the cost, that always helps. So I will reach out to, I'm talking to some guys on the Marine Advisory Committees. We were all kind of in a row at the kickoff, I think. Parks and Rec, us, and Marine Advisory, although I don't think Marine Advisory stayed very long. But, okay, that's a great idea. Thanks for pointing that out, Jeff. So I can go investigate that sign, take a picture of it.
I'm pretty sure I got it there.
Do you mind emailing it to me?
Oh,
Great. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
yeah, I remember that.
That's great.
It's by that thing every day.
Okay, so I will look into that with the MAC committee and see if they have the artwork. Find out who actually produced the sign. Okay, so this next item, unless there's anything else on that, is just an update. And I think Jeff, you reported, I think this was mentioned in one of Patty Gamby's emails, that this project that a plan has been developed for included something for a turtle sanctuary, actually. So here's the history of this. Jennifer, about, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago, this committee reached out to say, could we do something about the erosion of the Southgate Pond and trying to deter the goose from nesting there, to kind of control them that way instead of like other kind of less lethal. Yeah. And so we kind of partnered with the Coastal Bays folks, and they got a grant, or they provided a grant to develop a plan for, include, vegetation. So this is basically, this was reported in the local newspapers, and the Jeff did give us an update on this, just mentioning that it does include, well, one thing we had been asking for is, can we have, there used to be logs that were in the Southgate Pond, and turtles love to bask. We were just saying, hey, can you just find it when it falls along and put it in there? I guess that hasn't happened, but this turtle specific protection, so the last line of it is supposed to be part of it. So unfortunately, this is being held up by the federal grants from the EPA that are frozen. I don't know when we'll move further. Is there like staff at the association that is in charge of that?
Yeah, there's some there. I think it's Linda,
Okay,
because she's the one that gave me the update on this at our last board.
all right, so maybe we can just, periodically reach out to her to see if there's been any progress. So we had been talking about the next item, excuse me. Maybe the air conditioning is getting to me. We had the field trip we took to the recycling center. We found that was very instructive, informative, and I think we enjoyed it. But the University of Maryland has this Horn Point Laboratory, which Jeff, you're pretty familiar with that.
Yeah,
I mean, not Jeff, and also Don. Don has visited.
I have not.
Oh, you have?
Been
You
trying
have
to visit
contact.
for the last year and a half, but
So we talked about, perhaps getting together and going there as a group, maybe in lieu of one of our meetings. We're getting to, they have regular, I have it in here, is it Tuesdays? Yeah. Regular public tours, but maybe due to our interest, we could ask for something that's a little bit more than what they do on the public tour. So our meetings are the fourth Wednesday of every month, except November and December. So this is my final request to see, do we want to specifically organize something to do this, or do we want to just go on our own when we have time to go? It's Cambridge, it's about an hour or so away. They have, their website has all kinds of information.
It's an hour drive.
I'd say it's about an hour
Cambridge.
from here, straight 50 west.
North and south.
If we were going to do it and go to one of the regular things, I would say, probably just carpool and meet, like, try to be here like at 8:30 or something. But again, does anybody have a real interest in this, or do you just want to try to go visit it on your own? But they've been doing this oyster restoration for decades, I think, or at least the last 20 years. And I guess is that where people take their spat once, or you take it to the St. Martin's River Keepers, right?
Yeah, no, we give it to the keepers of the St. Martin River, and they place it.
are they placing it now?
He did what I did. Maybe he's giving it back to Maryland Coastal Bays, and they do it. So,
Because I know that, speaking with Carly, I think, as the Coastal Bays, and the location where they were creating their oyster reef was getting salted, and both a great location, so, okay.
there's a contact. Maybe I guess.
Oh, thank you. So she's on with the community. Okay, great. So, if people, I know it's busy, it's vacation time. Do you want to put this off until the fall and request a special tour after their busy season is over. They also have summer camps that are held there for kids. So could I just a show of hands, does anybody want to try to plan a group trip? Okay, so when should we do that? Should we go one of their regular days or request a special tour on one of our meeting days?
I would suggest we do it during our meeting days.
So I think next meeting, we're gonna probably be discussing a lot about these concerns Patty raised, so I don't know if that would be a good one, but
I won't be around in August.
we won't be. Anybody else have a conflict in late July? Well,
I just gotta put my dog somewhere, so
that's only for a few hours, a half day.
We can look at September
it's a
too.
long time.
Why don't we aim for September? I
Yeah.
think that would be better.
I think that would.
That way we can all plan, we have the rest of the summer to do.
And in the meantime, I will reach out to them about arranging, I mean, we're down 2 committee members now. But it might just be a group of like 8, who have all of our current members. All right, September it is. Okay, this was something that came up with Judy earlier this month. I got kind of a late request from the Anglers Club to exhibit at their Teach a Kid to Fish Day. I only found out about it like a few days before the event. When one of the members of the Anglers Club reached out to me, I guess the previous chair of this committee had given him my contact info. And I just kind of said, we participated at that last year. I found it wasn't very, our presence wasn't really, did not have a big impact. We handed out little kid coloring books that somebody had made up and some crayons but most of the kids, especially the older kids, they, passed the coloring stage. So I don't think we missed out on that, but they've also invited us to exhibit at the youth fishing contest on July 19th. And again, I think they provided a table for us last year at the Teach a Kid to Fish. Haven't you been to one of those, Ann? Did you participate in one? Okay.
I'm not big fisher person.
Well, they're trying to teach youth, how to fish, but also how to be responsible. That's, one of the projects that we had completed was getting line and hook disposal tubes installed around the ponds. That's, I don't really know that it is something we really need to be.
I think the message we would have is that being a responsible fisher, man or kid. Dispose of your line. One of the things I always see in freshwater is, you have a little bait cup, with corn or something in it, and that gets left behind,
Or it gets stuffed into one of our new disposal tubes. That's what I've seen.
And it's not just freshwater, it's stuff that I see, like paddle boarding, and I wind up picking. From crab floats to plastic bottles and other stuff you find along the shoreline.
Well, I think it's in the minutes from last month, but we had a very successful collaboration with the OC Beach Heroes on Earth Day. And they picked this park because it has a lot of parking, although it wasn't a lot of trash here. But we did have, about a half dozen people work from this committee and association join in to pick up litter on Earth Day. And we were on TV. Jeff made his first appearance at WBOC. I was on. They sent somebody without. I didn't know that they were sending anybody to. I guess they're looking for something to cover an Earth Day. So I wondered if we couldn't partner with Beach Heroes, and a lot of them live in Ocean Pines, to do some kind of, if maybe next year on Earth Day, or even like a quarterly cleanup in Ocean Pines, because as you guys have mentioned, you pick up trash. You especially notice it in the summer. We have the rental people come in, and I don't think they care as much about it as we do. I don't know how we would go about organizing that, but should we just try to aim for something else for Earth Day next year and then kind of move on from there, see how many volunteers we get? We would not do it on a Beach Heroes, they do every Tuesday. So we pick another day, Earth Day, I don't know what it is next year. It would happen to be on one of their regular cleanup days, usually it's a Tuesday, so, I would say the Southgate Pond always needs lots of work. And there is, if you include the library and the sports corporal, I think there's enough parking there. So what do you think? Do you aim for Earth Day next year? Start promoting
I
early?
think we should, do a cleanup as an annual event.
Okay.
If not buying. Because really it's like December after all the leaves fall, that, you start walking the 90 trail and you get to see everything that's been
Covered.
discovered. Yeah, just been, because vegetation's been covered.
So just a show of hands or whatever, aim for a big cleanup on Earth Day 2026. Okay, that's what we'll do. Again, we can, reach out to the Beach Heroes population, because if we have it on a day that's not the regular cleanup day, we might get a lot of people to, and I don't know if they ever afford to give out anything. I think that the reward is volunteering. And you've done something else nice for people. And does everybody agree before we leave the youth fishing contest that it's not worth our while to be there?
I think it's too soon.
Well, it is too soon. It's, we got less than a month. Okay, well, they're very nice people. I'll just, tell them, maybe if get us on your calendar for next year, and we'll look at the dates and see how they work. How's that sound? Next year, put
I mean,
everything.
they already are fishing, I'm thinking marine advisory, so they asked marine advisory, so all, because maybe one of us can do the oyster cage, much like Jeff does it. That'd be interesting for a kid, I would think.
Oh, to find out about that? Okay,
That might be interesting demonstration for the kids to see during their learn to fish day.
yeah, it
Winter's
was,
Day, what
Lee
quality.
Lee Phillips was the gentleman that reached out to me, so I'll get back to him like this week, just to let him know who would be willing to bring their oyster this year. Anybody? Okay, I'll offer that and just say we can't
Yeah, I don't
do
know
it.
anything about it. My stuff.
I'll offer that, Jeff. You know you're gonna be here on July 19th. Hopefully we'll have a nice day. I haven't had too many lately. Okay, I'll offer that to Lee and see what he says, and then say maybe next year, give us your calendar earlier. Okay, well, we are at 12 minutes of, does anybody have anything else they want to talk about today? Yes, Jim.
Hey, I'd like to make a.
Oh, yes, yes, right. Good.
Yesterday I got to attend the, Maryland Coastal Base Program, where they signed a 10-year document on their comprehensive conservation and management plan. And this was signed by all of the Maryland state leaders, like Mary Beth Carrozza, Wayne Hartman, the president of our county commissioners, the president of our board of directors, Stuart Blackerneck. Stuart wasn't here, so I got to attend his place. So it culminated with the governors having the final signature on the document yesterday. So I got this for you all. This is an executive summary. It's in your email box. So instead of giving you the hard copy, I scanned this in and I emailed it to you this morning so you can provide it to everybody. But it's a 10-year plan that has 4 themes: provide healthy waters, 1; 2, protect fish, wildlife, and their habitat; 3, create resilient communities and ecosystems; and 4, develop public engagement and partnerships.
That would be us.
Yeah, so I got to see Carly yesterday and Taylor, remember?
Yeah, Taylor.
You invited both of them here, and they both said, again, if you ever want them, they love coming and presenting and doing, so if you ever want to have them at one of your meetings again, they're happy to do that. I picked up some information for you that, they can share with the team, but this is a map of,
Coastal Bays.
the 5 coastal bays that we have around here of interest in the Newport Bay, which is the entrance to, like the Assateague area.
Mm.
They are starting a big project in July to really shore up that area and prevent further deterioration and runoff from getting in. So it's a huge project. They're just starting. A similar project that's planned is the Jenkins Point project. That's on their list. And they're all about creating real estate for nesting birds and things like that. That's what it's all about. It's not for creating real estate for us or recreational boaters, or it's creating real estate for our birds, because it's such an important piece of the ecosystem with fish and everything else. So I got all this information. I'll give it to you. This one I'm going to keep from me. It's in your email.
I can forward the plan that you sent, but I would say I know you project, you probably get their, and Don, you probably get their newsletters and stuff. And I do as well, because I volunteered with them frequently. I think the next thing they might have is in the fall when they have harbor days over at the fishing harbor. I personally staffed the booth there last year, and they have hands-on stuff for kids. So we had that was pretty successful. They give out these maps too, so people
Yeah, they did.
put one on their wall. So it's kind of a good event. They do things throughout the year. May Day, of course, is the biggest thing, and that's usually mid to late May. But there's also lots of other volunteer opportunities. A lot of times it's clearing away invasive brush, which this heat, I don't know if I could do that, but
One more issue I did learn from them yesterday was from Mary Beth Carosa. Maryland has that license plate for your cars, for the Chesapeake Bay.
Yep.
Mary Beth Carosa just got that changed up in Annapolis to say the Chesapeake Bay
coastal.
and the coastal bay. So now, when anybody buys that tag, money's come back here for our 5 coastal bays.
Oh, that's great.
So pass the word
Good
around.
for her.
Yeah, that, if anybody's interested in that tag, that money now, a portion of that money comes back to
Okay.
Eastern Shore.
Wow. So if you want to get one, I held off on getting one of those tags because it's like, what about the other page?
Yeah, well, now it's on there. Thanks to Mary Beth Cruz.
Yeah, I like when I'm on Route 90 and you get through that section where you're leaving the Assateague watershed and you're approaching the coastal bays. It's always like, yes, ours.
So Maryland Coastal Bays, in that newsletter, this came out, they talked about the turn raft. And the turn raft basically is, a couple floating things about the size of this room, couple of them. It's like 240 nesting pairs of terns,
Yes.
which is hard as happened before. How they determine that, I don't know, but I think that's really cool. And I had asked Kevin Smith, who's the director of Coastal Bays, why don't you have more of them out there and let's kind of demonstrations, It's tough getting this thing in and out. They had to get permitted because it's a floating dock. And so it's just like if you want to have a dock behind your house, you got to get a permit for that. So it's difficult. So that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I got to meet the architect of that floating dock yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we actually had a presentation on it yesterday. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Where? Was it online or?
It was during the Maryland Coastal Bays meeting yesterday.
Okay.
And then the other thing I was going to bring up, Maryland Coastal Bays, but there was, say, a hearing, but there was a presentation on Jenkins Point and making it a resilient structure. But you would have to, how you would do it, the planned cheapest way would be to truck the stuff in and where to fill it in. But if you go out to Pines Point Provisions and you look out to the north, you'll see, one pine tree out there on the sandy beach. Marsh grass, and then void, there's an osprey nest, on a pole. And then there's another little thin spit of island down there. since last year, that thin spit of island has been gradually going away. And I project that by the end of this year or by next year, that'll be nothing there. All will be a pile of sand underneath the water that lost,
Well,
which causes wave action to impact, the yacht club to some degree, but mainly Pines Point. And that facility right there, and the houses, which are Ocean Pines. And it's just really sad seeing that thing just get eaten away by wave action. Some of it caused by boats, a lot of it by a northeast wind.
North and northeast.
Well, I mean, sea level rise and erosion, we need to be talking more about that. I noticed just in my homeowner's insurance here is now more expensive than Montgomery County, which is kind of crazy and I'm not anywhere near, except for the Southgate Pond, a body of water. So I was like, whoa, but I think it's all because of proximity to water.
I just wanted to tell you all about a success that I am having with planting natives. I planted milkweed. First year it just grew. This year I actually had the caterpillars from the monarch butterflies.
Oh, great.
One though, building, yes. So, I mean, because not all of us live on the water, we need to do our part. But inland people to make sure that we're planting things that attract our pollinators and our beneficial insects. So I was very excited yesterday.
That's great.
I even had my granddaughter out there looking at it. Said, look, she loves cats. I said, look, this is going to be a monarch.
It's not a bad caterpillar.
Yeah.
The at Coastal Bays, they usually have a native plant giveaway, and I planted one last year, not here, have no sun, but at my main home, and yes, I'm still waiting for hummingbirds, but starting to see butterflies.
Seen butterfly. Yeah. I've seen a lot of bees this year. Very exciting to see these new things coming around. They've always been there, but now I'm enticing them to
That's great, congratulations. Speaking of native trees, when I was driving along Cathell Road, right opposite the sports court pool, I noticed some trees that had been.
Somebody ran over them. There was
Yeah, you're kidding.
no,
Were those some of the cherry trees?
yes.
I was like, well, unfortunately, the association has been choosing like some non-native trees, and if we can continue to suggest that when they plant.
I mean, they shouldn't replace them with the same thing. They should use a little more intelligence, but Jeff, did they get the person that did that?
I have no idea.
If you read Ocean Pines news and events, they apparently did. I mean, they actually videotaped the person.
Well, I saw a picture of the car at night driving into its driveway, and whoever was writing the thing, Facebook said it was a drunk driver,
Okay.
and at night who apparently couldn't stay on the road and this way and that way and that way.
The trees, look, they should have a lot of damage. They're good.
Yeah, they should, and hopefully they.
I saw this van that fit that description, was damage on the section that, regarding native trees, I have noticed that there are now arborvitae trees planted in the median of the Ocean Parkway.
That's it.
But the arborvitae is native to Maryland, so
That's
they
good.
did a good job. I'm not sure how big they're gonna get and if they're gonna skewer traffic in 20 years, but they are native.
They were to replace the old, analog wooden signs we had.
That's where they were.
Oh, that's pretty clean.
And I
That's where
guess,
the electrical outlet is right there.
so they're
Trying
trying,
one.
You have a light on?
Could, but yeah.
yeah, I know, so the little baby Christmas trees is what they look like, but arborvitae's they grow fast.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how,
Could be marked.
I did not realize that they were considered native.
Yeah, I looked it up. And I would think that.
I was looking up crepe myrtles because we have a lot of those, and again, they were not native, they were introduced from Japan and so many other things years ago. But they don't, I don't mind them, they're nice trees and so
That's an hibiscus. It's not hibiscus. What's that other tree that comes wild? Has a really pretty flower.
It's not a cherry tree. How about those?
Something. I can need this.
Okay, well, does anyone have anything else to add before we adjourn? Well, thank you very much. Welcome, Jennifer. We hope we'll see you next month around the same time and, oh my phone got off.
So we're gonna decide the date today or?
Oh, for,
I got rid of all the grants.
for next week, it's always the fourth
Well, yeah, it is.
Wednesday, which will be,
I have my.
That's why I just wanted to make sure we're on the same boat.
yeah, I guess I should always include that, but I'll just, so, just be sure. It is
So we're going.
My wife's the
Yeah.
president.
Wednesday, July 23rd.
4C. Out of something like
Something
that.
first.
No, 23rd.
Oh,
Does anybody, I have one of these posters. Does anybody want this poster? Because I already got one. How about the other
I have to look at it.
3D islands?
And our usual meeting times at 11.
Yeah, we used to be 10, but we had a combination of a commercial.
So, gotcha.
We could, PN stands for Pat's Note Taker.